Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 3. Module 3 is the second module where we will work on the definition essay. In this module, you will finish the essay and turn it in. So in Module 2, you started working on the definition essay by learning more about how to write a definition essay and also completing a discussion board where you planned out your topic. Now you need to go back and look at that discussion board and look at instructor feedback on the discussion board, because I will leave you some information on your topic as well, your topic choice, as well as confirming whether or not it is an abstract concept that you are working with to make sure that you have a topic appropriate for the assignment, and also giving you some tips for working with that topic as well. So go back and look at your feedback from the discussion board first, and then you'll start working on your essay by writing an outline and then writing the essay itself. Now for this essay, we are not doing a rough draft assignment, so you won't be getting feedback on your rough draft from anyone in the class, which means that you want to finish your draft early enough so that you have time to proofread it yourself. You can also send it into the online writing lab, which is a good resource for you to get feedback. And then I also encourage you to use friends and family members who can look over your essays by sending it to them and getting some feedback as well. So just keep that in mind. It's not a good idea to wait until the last minute to write an essay and turn it in. You want to leave yourself plenty of time to read over your own work. It always surprises me how many students never read their own essays. That is a problem. If you want to learn to be a better writer, the only way you can do that is to actually read through your work. Make sure that you are looking critically at what you have written. So like I said, this module just has the 2 assignments. Let me go over what you'll see in the module here. I've got the assignment sheet linked again. So this is the same one that you saw in Module 2. And then the first assignment is to do the outline. Please do the outline first. Obviously, there is some advantage to outlining an essay after you have written it, but the primary advantage for most students is to do it beforehand, because obviously you want to make sure that you have a plan before going into actually writing the essay. And then keep in mind that an outline is just your current plan. Sometimes things turn out differently as you write, and so don't feel like you're forced to, as you write, do everything exactly the same as the outline. An outline is just kind of your preliminary ideas. So some students don't like outlines for that reason, but I do have students outline just because I think that for the majority it really helps them. I do have an example here of what an outline looks like. This is a formal outline, which means you have a working thesis and then the body points. You don't need anything else. You don't need to write out your introduction or your conclusion. It's just the working thesis and then the main points that you want to cover. With this essay being as short as it is, you probably won't have more than 3 main points. You may not pop up here. So what you're going to do is kind of decide how are you going to approach this topic. And there's some ideas in the textbook for how you can organize, but I did also have you read that exemplification chapter. And exemplification, if you remember, is the providing of examples. And so the sample outline I have here, which you are more than welcome to download this document and just write over it. I've used anxiety as an example. So we're working with a topic that you have personal experience with, so that you can draw on your personal experience as part of the specific details that you include, but you're also including at least one source. So I've included down here at the bottom, I put my works cited entry for my one source, which is also the example that I have in the module for using documentation. So I took anxiety and I divided it into the 3 main types of anxiety, which is that general and nervous feelings that most people get, generalized anxiety disorder, which is a very common form of diagnosable anxiety disorder, and then phobias, which are the extreme types of anxiety. And so what I did for each section then, so these are my 3 paragraphs, my 3 body paragraphs. Each body paragraph will cover similar topics. That is the causes, the symptoms, and the treatment, which is very typical when you're working with a medical topic. You cover causes, symptoms, and treatments. So I've got that, but I've got it divided out into my 3 main examples. So that's what exemplification does for us, is helps us to organize. And in this case, I've gone from the least complex, but also the most widespread to the most specific type of anxiety. And so that would be a logical way to organize my essay. I have also included, because I have some personal experience with anxiety, I've put a couple of things in here where I know I want to talk about my own experiences. I don't have a phobia, so I don't have personal experience with that, but I do with the first two. So that would be the place where you can kind of start thinking about how are you going to include your experience with the topic, and you can put that in your outline. The other thing in the module is the documentation stuff. So I have an overview of documentation for those of you who have never used MLA before. This will be your first introduction to it. It is very complicated. A lot of students really get kind of frustrated with it because it seems like there's so many rules. However, if you are the kind of logic-brained type of person, keep in mind that documentation is sort of a formula. That is, you do the same thing every time. All of the works cited entries look roughly the same. It just matters what kind of source you have as to which thing that you put in there. It all goes in the same order though. And things like quotations and paraphrases, those are all there you do the same thing each time. And so I've got this information, these are all the readings, and so you want to make sure that you start looking through them now. You will see them again in the next module when you actually have a quiz over this information. The requirements for the definition essay are really very simple. And then I also have some videos in here where I've gone over just an overview for those of you who have not had documentation experience before, and then specifically for just kind of a general web page, how to do the works cited entry, which is a challenge a lot of students have. I've given you an idea for places you can go looking for sources, most specifically the Allen Library databases, and Credo Reference is the database that's going to help you the most. It's an encyclopedia-based entry, and so that's a really good place to start, is kind of an encyclopedia entry. Remember that dictionaries do not count as sources for this essay, okay, because a definition is not a source. It doesn't provide any information other than what the word means, and we need actual information about the topic and not just a definition. So you can't use the dictionary as your source. You don't even need to put it on your works cited page because a definition is considered general knowledge. And so unless you quote it directly, in which case you put the quotation marks around it and tell us what dictionary it came from, if you just put it in your own words, then you don't need to even cite a dictionary. So these are just some ideas. You definitely can do a Google search, but keep in mind that you want to make sure that you've come up with a source that has good information. Mine's from the Mayo Clinic, so this is the example that I give. So I've got my works cited entry here. This is an example. So these are the requirements for the definition essay. You have one works cited entry. It's going to look like this for just a general web source. If you are using the databases, you can copy the citations off of the database. And then you can either use one quote or one paraphrase. The quote is the one that's directly word for word, and you use the quotation marks around it. And then the paraphrase you put in your own words. If you use a quotation, then you use what's called a signal phrase, which is where you take the first part of the works cited entry, so that matches here. And you put that in there in the sentence in front of the quotation. If you use a paraphrase, then you use what's called an in-text citation or a parenthetical citation, and you put that in parentheses at the end. And again, it matches the first part of the works cited entry. So it's, once you break it down into something really small like this, it looks pretty simple. Once you start working with multiple sources, that's where students start to get confused. So just keep in mind the requirements for the definition essay: one source and one reference to that source, and that's it. So you have one works cited entry with one source, and then either one quotation or one paraphrase. You can do both if you want. You can do as much as you want to. Some students have had a lot of experience using documentation and sources in their essay, and you're more than welcome to do more than the minimum, but you have to have the minimum. So that's the help there for your documentation requirements. And then this is where you actually submit the essay. Don't forget to double check the criteria sheet and make sure that you have met all of the requirements for the essay. The rubrics down here that I'll be using to grade your essay. And then just when you're ready, you hit start assignment and upload it. So that is module 3. Module 3 is the end of the definition essay. And then in the next module, we will move on to the third essay, which will be the comparison contrast essay. So if you have any questions at this point, make sure that you send me an email, and I hope you're having a good week.